Alrighty, guys, welcome to the PvP Town Hall. Big thanks to everyone showing up. I know that a couple people are probably going to be late just due to the time zone difference, so if you guys do come in late, no problem. Just message me or
Hey, wake up.
someone in there. But let me pull a couple other people down
User
here that
was
just
moved to your channel.
just entered. But first of all, I'd like to thank the Carbine staff that have joined us. Why don't you guys introduce yourself?
I'm Stephen Engel, lead combat designer and lead PvP for arenas and systems.
And I'm Brett Scheinert. I am lead dungeons, raids, battlegrounds, and war plots designer.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for joining. We really do appreciate it. So I know that you guys have some questions already kind of looked over. So what I'd like to do is first go over those briefly or in depth, however you guys are going to answer those. So why don't you just kind of take it away and answer as many questions as you guys feel that you guys want to answer, and then we'll jump right into Q&A.
You sent us like 6 pages of questions. Which ones would you want us to answer right here?
Well, I probably the ones that weren't addressed, specifically in the roadmap that you guys posted. Ren said the important ones. So rather than I guess pressure you guys to pick the best ones, I guess I'll just let the community ask. So I know Eclipse, you've been probably one of the more vocal voices of PvP. So what question did you want them to answer first? I know you submitted quite a few, so.
Well, I'd have to pull up the list too, but I think the big question on everybody's mind right now, like for everything, is what are you going to do for PvPers in the meantime, while everybody else is dealing with this new like PvE gear itemization, items that are better than the PvP counterparts, etc., until drop 5 comes along.
We have some stuff in the plans. We're trying to get a few of the things that I mentioned in the roadmap, which if anyone hasn't read, you should go check out. Some of those things we're working to try and get into a patch instead of waiting until the next drop, and that should help alleviate it somewhat, although the back-end engineering stuff will take longer. The stuff that involves the gear scaling and putting everyone to the same eye level when they go into battlegrounds and stuff like that.
Do I get to make a specific comment?
Yeah, go ahead, bud.
As far as like a specific instance goes, I think what we want to have an environment where people can queue up into arenas or rated battlegrounds or rated environments and feel like they can have meaningful gear progression. And I think the biggest divide comes when you have people that are just starting out with that 1200 blue gear, ready to jump in, ready to play Wildstar PvP, and then they're met with people that have some of that blue gear too, but also really good GA gear and really good DS gear that outweighs kind of how powerful that blue gear is. And I think it's that big divide initially that causes a lot of people to kind of say, well, what's the point of me trying to queue up and play right now when people can just come in and hit me for twice as hard? So I guess what I look for is what can you do in the meantime, like in the few weeks that we're waiting on anything, so that encourages people to play.
The short-term stuff is all of the dailies and the weeklies and all of that stuff that got added. The gear scaling stuff is probably going to come with a drop and did not come today, so it'll hopefully be the next one. But the short-term stuff is basically just incentives to get into the instances and play that stuff and have fun with them. The gear changes and the rallying is going to be a longer-term thing, so it's going to take longer to get those live.
Did anybody else want to comment on that specifically, or otherwise I have another potential solution?
I guess my fear is just the longevity of how long certain changes and implementations are going to take, and how long the PvP community is willing to actually wait for that. Which obviously you guys definitely have that in your head as well. But is there any way you guys can give us some sort of, I guess without getting in trouble, some sort of hint as to some really, really kind of close changes that are coming that you guys maybe addressed in the roadmap to kind of give us some sort of looking forward to, maybe within the next 3 months or so?
The ones we got moved up into, or are trying to move into a patch, are basically the gear changes, the blue PvP set available for gold, removing the rating requirements from the 1800 gear, adding the additional prestige purchases, primarily the resource bags and the additional amp and ability points. We're trying to move all of those up into a patch that is between drops.
Awesome, awesome. Wonderful to hear. Now, before Eclipse goes, does anyone else have anything to ask or bring up? Because this is a community event. You guys were all invited here for a reason. So I know Eclipse, you like to talk a lot, just like I do. But anyone else have anything to add, to say, to ask Carbine directly? Since we're starting to accumulate more people, just keep in mind that the one rule that we do have here is if anyone treats Carbine or anyone else from the community like a jerk or trolling or anything like that, you'll just be removed and you won't be welcome back. So just follow that one rule and we'll have a good time. Moving on. Anyone else besides Eclipse have anything else to kind of comment or ask in terms of what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, if I could ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Ren. I'm currently GM of the LOTD chapter in Wildstar. So we started on a PvP server, moved to another PvP server, moved yet again to another PvP server. Now we're on a PvE server because that's where all the population is. So my question is the intent to somehow merge all the servers down to a single rule set? Is there going to be something open world, maybe in zone design? What's going to differentiate PvP versus PvE? Because obviously having an empty PvP server isn't doing open world any favors right now. Thanks.
So right now, we'd like to get to the PvP world. We'd like to explore different avenues of making those interesting, but our immediate goal is to make PvP competitive currently within the instances. And as soon as we get it competitive in that way, then we can look towards improving the PvP servers and making them a more stable, fun environment to be in.
Anybody else? Unless not Eclipse, you can continue.
What are you guys doing for Warplot accessibility?
There's a lot of stuff that I would like to do. I just started working on Warplots very recently, and so the accessibility is definitely the number one thing I want to try and address. I don't have anything specific to announce. That stuff still has to go through scheduling and all that mumbo jumbo. But the accessibility is definitely the number one thing. Right now, you have to go through so many hoops with a war party and all of the additional things in order to get a war plot to actually trigger. And so that is definitely something that we're going to be looking at to make it much easier for people to actually participate. 1.2.0 actually had some additional functionality added with mercenaries to make it easier for people to queue that way.
Awesome.
But it will probably still require a lot of organization between the guilds and stuff, which I've seen everyone doing on Fridays, which is super awesome, to get a lot of them to trigger. I know one of the things that we are looking at is super long-term is multi-queuing. That's something we all want, but there's no ETA on that because it requires a very large amount of engineering. But having a system like that would also significantly help it because you'd be able to queue for a war plot, and even if it took a while, you could do other stuff while waiting.
Awesome.
So like you could be queued for war plots outside of something else, and then you could just jump into the war plot if you're already in a ship hand or something like that.
Yeah, the system would work something like that. I don't know the exact details.
So would this be a generic war plot that people could solo queue into?
You can do that today, actually.
I think she was talking more about like the plugs. Would they be like a generic plug set?
Yeah, you can do that today.
So how does that work with just the management aspects of your base, like as far as super weapons upgrades and?
So one of our engineers actually set it up so that you can have full mercenary war plots, so that if everyone that queued was a mercenary and nobody was actually in a war party, it would generate a default map that just has some default plugs and stuff like that. You won't have any consumables or stuff like that that the war party generally manages, but you would be able to trigger the match.
Okay, understood. But I guess what I'm getting at here is, so you have no control over who fires the super weapon. Just anyone can shoot it.
You would still have those abilities and stuff like that.
Right, but anyone could use it. I mean, because that's usually
Probably.
something that you want to coordinate with the team, and having 30 people with access to shoot that weapon
Sounds awesome.
Potentially, or you could have somebody shoot it because they don't know what it does.
That's true. If it is a full mercenary war plot, it is definitely going to be a lot more hectic and a lot less organized than people working together and all being on TeamSpeak together and stuff like that. But that kind of comes with it.
Yeah.
All right. Swifters, go ahead, man.
So I had a question in regards to the amount of LASs that we have. I know that with the switch to most of the gear off of the Elder Gem vendor, that it leaves you now time, 3 weeks to buy an additional LAS slot. I myself raid and PvP in this game here. I find myself really not being able to PvP as much because I DPS and I tank, and it's very cost prohibitive to raid and try to pay 50 gold for respecs and stuff. So is there any plans to just make those LAS spots more available? Because I know for people that raid, they don't do as much PvP because it's, costs quite a bit of money, one plat to go in and then one, come out and respec.
User joined your channel.
Or are you happy with where they're at now?
Along with some other things that we've discussed internally, we've been looking at accessibility in general of the LAS, and specifically the way that you can reach as well. We've kind of at least slightly improved that in the future with being able to respec individual amps. But eventually, it's definitely something that we want to look toward, improving the ability to choose between LAS and how many LASs you can have. It's not a short-term thing, but in the long term, we're looking towards it.
Cool. Yeah, because I think it's, it's at least a good, and now at least we don't, up until this week, I've always spent my Elder Gems on gear and stuff like that. So at least now it's an option. So, and it's cool that you guys are going to be looking into it.
Could you possibly do one for like a prestige bot LAS? Or is that kind of locked out?
Hey, wake up.
It's
User was moved to your channel.
very possible. There's some technical limitations right now in actually doing that, so we have to do some back-end work, which will take a little bit of time, just because of the way it's set up and how they are.
All right, cool, awesome. Eclipse, go ahead with your next question, man.
All right. So I went down the list of everything that everybody turned in from your Dropbox. I went ahead and tried to pick out some ones that I think most of the people here are looking for. I also have one related to that previous gear question, but one of the big ones I think is a problem just for just about everybody that likes PvP is guild influence and renown gain from PvP. You don't get anything. Like it's silly because you can't queue up with your friends into a battleground and get the same rewards that you can from going